sort of highlight. Yes, so it's very good to be able to see if the armature is scaling properly, the bones, the structure, the rigged model, right? So I was saying right before, if we scale up the project, like if we import this in somewhere, sometimes we rescale the whole rigged model, and sometimes this can break the armature. So I could make like a scale up 10 times and see if something breaks in the armature apparently, or in the character. All the bones are showing, or actually not, and hide everything. So we see everything here, right, for the armature, and we see all the objects in principle. Well, the object of the character, there's nothing here, so it doesn't matter. The grease pencil and widgets, I don't care. So here is the yeah, all of the stuff are here and are visible, and I've scaled temporarily just to test 10 times up. Could be the inverse, right? So like scale down 0.1, but maybe for certain features will be easy to, so reset scale, scale up. We can even scale 100 if we are not totally sure, but then look how slow it is to move, and also it's we lose the vision clipping. It's too much distance to cover, so let's not do this. Let's just reset scale. Let's move here, home and dot. There we go. So period. Then I know an example here of things that can break in an armature. For example, I was having here, as soon as I've imported her and rescaled on another project. So I had this widgets here, and I was with the owner on owner space, and see what happens. World space. So because of world space, this is a limit scale. It was meant because in this rig, this bone here, it's is parent of this. We don't see here because of the bone relation. Okay, it's a parent of the thing for an automation there, and so it because of the parenting, it strongly inherits the scaling. So that's why I've decided, well, how I'll solve that. There are many ways to solve that and do this differently, but I've decided to do this. And so this limit scale with world space, this space creates a lot of problems for this kind of issue. So world space is usually not good for rigging characters. Only good pose space is, like, because world space is dependent on world space. Pose space is dependent on the armature's orientation, the object. So like axis here for the armature, see? So this is the proper. So pose spaces is safer. It should be default, but it's not. It's world space. So this can cause many issues in some other things. Sometimes it can be good, but usually world space is like, I don't know all the case scenarios, of course, but usually world space would be to think when you want to relate the character to the environment, water, floor, stuff like that, right? Space, ceiling, I don't know, walls, something that can really be an pose space is more like internal. It's more local, right? It's more a local space of a more localized world space, so it's safer for the character. And so by just changing that, or it could be something else, maybe local space here, but I'll show another example which is much more problematic than this one. So here we'll avoid this scaling from the object of itself, right? The armature, it's 10 times more. Could even apply scale here. No, I think this is not a good idea. So we can already see the problems if we do this. We don't need to apply. Yeah, I think this is another question. So you see that the things changed, right? So I'll give another example here because I have this in my rig. Exactly, there is some sort of limit distance, limit distance bone constraints. So what that does, limit distance, is for the, it can be used in several ways. It's very interesting bone constraint. So it can sort of remembers a bit of a shrink wrap bone constraint inside and outside, but because you have this clamp region, so it remembers. So here this is clamped inside. It's, imagine a sphere inside of the, this is the eye key, master eye key bone, right, for the left hand. So imagine this, there's a distance here, and you see they have calculated by pose spaces. So this is not world spaces. If we change this to world space, immediately this 5 meters is, because I've scaled the armature on other absolute dimensions, immediately this causes problems because of the rescaling. But if I go back to the original, it's not problematic. You see, welcome Rex, hola. So here this world space is bad for scaling armature stuff, right, for different projects. So you see this distance is based in world space, but, and then you see the other arm doesn't have this problem because it is using pose space. So world space will ruin rigs. It's bad. It's very, let's say world space is truly very specific, right? So it's not, pose space should be the default, and world space will be stuff to be more specific for those cases that I've mentioned, water, environmental relations. So that was for the highlight. I think that is interesting, rare topic, and it rarely occurs because you need to be using first of all those strange bone constraints with some specifics. And so this is why in all my rig I usually try to get pose space whenever there would be world space. If it's not something specific to environmental rigging of the character, right, the character relation to the scenery, then I go pose space. It does essentially the same thing, but better for the more generic, right? So we can, all right, so let's now